Welcome to the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. Have you ever wondered how people succeed in real estate and what steps they took to get there? If so, this podcast is for you. Your hosts, Sayla and Eileen Prack, interview top experts in the real estate community to share with you their real estate journey and how they achieved massive success. Our goal is to provide you with valuable real estate resources and to help you apply it to your own real estate goal. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack, and today we have a wonderful guest for you, Andresa Guidelli, and she is a skilled developer and asset manager with extensive experience in full gut renovation projects, new construction, and commercial development. She also owns a rental portfolio comprised of both long and short-term rentals and is the go-to person when it comes to implementing processes that allow for scalability. She is the co-founder and CEO of the Real Estate Investor Community, co-host of the Real Estate Investor Show, and the podcast is part of the BiggerPockets podcast network. And so Andresa and her partner, Liz Faircloth, had built an amazing community over at Investor. They are such an inspiration to women and other real estate investors in the space. So I'm super excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Andresa, can you share a little bit more about your background, give our listeners a little bit more of insight, color into it, and as to how you started with real estate and building up the community? Is this something that you always wanted to do? Anything that you envisioned? How did you get started?
Well, I was born in Brazil, so I didn't even know real estate existed. we start with that, right? So it was not this dream that you thinking about it. I decided to come to the US for my master's degree. And my last semester, I took door-to-door sales internship. And in one of my meetings with my manager, he passed me along this purple small book. And I was like, what is this? I need a sales book because I wanted to get sales experience, not become a salesperson, get the sales skills. And he's like, no, you're not going to be here for a long time. I know, I can see it. You got to read this book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was like, who is this guy? What are you talking about? And that book opened up a new level to me. I did not know that real estate existed. I didn't know people were able to build a portfolio and have multiple assets, not being born in a wealthy family that inherit that. That to me was the way that we were taught. And from there, I got more educated. My ex-husband and boyfriend at that time, we started taking real estate lessons. And that's how I came across real estate. We got educated and started investing and started with this one small single family house in South Philadelphia, pull a HELOC out, which is a line of credit for a primary. And that ball start rolling. And then from there, start doing multiple projects at the same time, new construction, full gut rehab. We just closed on a 670 unit apartment complex. So it's a long journey, right? But the real estate investor community came when Liz and I started meeting each other once a month in a Panera Bread just to support each other businesses. And we asked this question. I was like, where do women like us go? Right? We were part of BiggerPockets. That's how we met each other, but we didn't find a place where women could raise their hand, get the support they need to run their business as a business. So we decided to create the real estate investor community. And we did not have this master plan under our belt. We decided to start with a podcast where we interview successful women in real estate. And we got a couple of resistance at the beginning. A person said to us, your guy's going to run out of women to interview. I was like, oh, interesting.
Challenge accepted.
Do it. Right. So 4 years later, we are part of BiggerPockets network, 45,000 downloads per month as of now, 42 countries and waiting lists of women to be interviewed. And I don't think we're going to run out of women. And from there, we start creating meetups across the country and Canada. We have 50 plus right now and an online community. Our goal is to really support women with the intimate and global community. That's where we are each other's best resources. So we are creating that for women.
Wow. I mean, that's fantastic and incredible that you and Liz have been able to build such an amazing international community
Mhm.
and just about with women and empowering them and bringing them into the space and just giving them a support network that they're able to go to and just find other like-minded people to be able to share where there might not be other some resources. And it's a little bit more difficult to find a group that you really resonate with, that you connect with. So that community aspect is fantastic to hear that you guys have been able to build such an amazing one at that.
Absolutely. And it's just unlearning a lot, right?
Mhm.
Because many times women believe that raising their hand and getting help is a sign of weaknesses. And meant to. So it's just like, okay, just ignore that, raise your hand as many times as you want. There's no such a thing as a stupid question. You need to get the support that you need. You need to get unstuck. And we're masters in doing things on our own. So we're creating that you don't need to be good at everything. There's no such a thing. So like breaking down all the myths that we learned throughout the years.
So, when you came to the US and you started learning about real estate,
Mhm.
did you ever think about doing it also in Brazil? And has there been any synergies or any cross platforms that you've been able to see in
Mhm.
Brazil versus the US? How they do real estate over there versus how they do it in the US?
It was very curious because I am in construction, right? So over there, because of the weather, and I started connecting with a couple of friends to understand how the construction works. And they were asking me, how long does it take for you to rehab a house? I was like, well, 4 months in and out, full gut. He's like, what are you talking about? Because over there, they use bricks, lots of concrete. There's
Oh.
no drywall there, right? There's no central air in certain areas. You have windows. You open the window. You're cold, you close the window. You're hot, you open the window, right? So it's a different climate, it's a different type of construction, it's completely different. And we have a ton of our family members that own rentals. And I started asking, my mom in the past, my family owned land, but it didn't own rentals. So I was like, how they sold the land? I was like, why did they sell it? Right. So all of that. But in terms of return on investment over here, the time and the return itself, it's higher. So as of now, I don't have any development there, but I have some plans.
The person who had come up to you when you had brought up the idea of starting the podcast and focusing it solely on interviewing women only, and the comment
Mhm.
came about as you'll start to run out, there's not going to be enough women to you can interview. It's not going to be long form. What were those feelings, and why did you decide to push forward with it instead of maybe pivoting to something else that might have a greater audience or you might have a different type of reach? Why did you decide to continue to focus on the women aspect of it, and why was that important?
I understood his perspective, right? I was like, you're a 45-year-old white man, American, born here. I understand you can relate. You don't know our questions, right? That we the balancing giving birth and managing a contractor or answering emails from the hospital, right? Those things that women go through. Oh, I need to go through a walk through my rehab project, but I have a 3-month old on the car seat. Well, general contractor, you stay outside because I'm not going to bring my baby inside, and you go there and you watch him sleeping. That is a true story, right? But
Mm-hmm.
people can't relate to that. But when we start talking to other women, that they're like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Because that's what I'm going to go through it, or things like that. We found more women that could relate and could not find a place. So we're like, listen, if nobody, Liz and I had this conversation, if nobody, a single person listened to our podcast, we're going to continue doing it because we are connecting with new women about their success stories, making deeper connections, having conversations with them at all times. So we're liking it. We're having fun doing it. We're learning it. We're just like as if we're not working with them, having a cup of coffee. We're interviewing them and highlighting their story and getting the nitty gritty of it. If nobody likes it, cool. We're enjoying it. But I guess a bunch of people liked it. So,
Yes, a lot of people.
yeah.
So, for you guys, how did you start to build out the community? How did you start to let people know that this community existed, that it's out there for people like yourselves who might be interested and who need support and want to find that community where they can have that support, that mastermind, that kind of camaraderie within the space?
Sure. Well, the community looks like right now is quite different than when we started the podcast 4 years ago. The structure that we have in place right now, the staff that we have in place right now, the development plan is completely different. There wasn't such a thing as before. So we started with the podcast. That's how we started. And then from there, we said, how about if we we do a meetup? Philadelphia investor meetup. That's where we started. And Lisa and I did that once a month. We interviewed people there or have guests over, or we taught different things, started gathering, right? So it was very organic. And then those women were like, okay, you guys should create a Facebook group so we can, start connecting with one another. So we create a Facebook group that has now more than 11,000 members in it. And organically, without keeping in mind, we're still investors, right? So that's not our full-time focus. And then we start growing and women start coming to us saying, I would like to have a meetup near my location. We're like, not possible for us to now go to New Jersey or to Florida. We can travel once a month to Florida to run a meetup there. It's like, no, I'll be the leader. We're like, wait a minute. Okay, so we can have leaders across the country. And then Canada came. Oh, no, I want to open up in Canada. We're like, oh my gosh, now there's this whole structure behind the scene to offer a process for women who wants to open up investor meetup at their location and run it. And we have masterminds with them every single month. And then we have a virtual event. In 2020, we had our first virtual event. We're like, okay, let's come together over here. And women came, and at the end, they're like, okay, what do you got to sell us? And we're like, sell you? We don't have anything to sell to you. What are you talking about? It's like, well, what comes after? Okay, this was cool. I like this community. What comes after? So after that, we develop our Strive membership that it's designed for women who are already investors who want to take their business to the next level, and they're struggling to build a team, put systems and process in place, and have high level training in terms of real estate. So we have mentors that come along, Anna Kelly, Avery, Carl, and so many others here that I can start naming, the best of the best that came along to mentor those women. So that's where we are right now. And then the next step for us is PastorCon in June, where we are gathering more than 500 women that are coming together to talk about real estate, business strategies, and self-care tactics.
Wow. I'm just amazed by the growth that you guys have been able to show and to grow over these couple of years, really. Yeah. And because it really shows that there is a need out there. There's a lot of people who are looking for this type of community, but don't know where to start, don't know where to go. But you guys have created something where adding a ton of value to the people, the members that are participating in there, and then helping those people out and giving them resource and really just being a support group, being a place where they can bounce ideas off of each other, share experiences, especially as women, like you mentioned, with the babies in the car seat. Yeah.
There's a lot of accountability, and the group is very tight, right? So it's just not this like, oh, you come, you participate from your seat. No, you come and you play in the arena. And many times it's uncomfortable, but one thing I guarantee, like, you're moving forward. You're moving along with living life on your own terms, whatever that means to you.
How did you come across BiggerPockets, and how did that relationship form?
Liz and I met through BiggerPockets. So we're very grateful for the platform, and we have created a great relationship with them throughout the years, being contributors, being their podcast, and supporting their growth. So it's just, I think, a natural path, right? They're looking to expand their network, and we're also looking to expand ours. So it was a great opportunity to have our podcast only inside their network.
And as you've been building up and this community has been growing more than you had anticipated to be growing. One
Mhm.
of the important things also is to have a strong team behind you as
Yeah.
well to help support and grow this platform to be able to provide as much value to its members as possible. How have
Yeah.
you guys been able to grow that side of it and to, find the best team members to support you and is aligning to your mission, to your goals and your values, and to provide the members the best experience that they're able to get?
Absolutely. Right now, we have a team about 18 people. Many of them are in different countries from Australia, France, and we have a couple of people in England. I love working with those three. I don't know why, but across those three countries more often than any other country. But as you mentioned, our mission, our vision, our core values, that's where we start. We don't hire anybody that doesn't go through our personality assessment because we want to make sure it's a good fit for both parties. But we went through not so good fits, but it's just part of the process. And throughout our building a team, it was really necessary to put in place process and systems in place so everybody could talk to each other virtually in a matter or understand where things are, different projects that we have going on, where things are, and we're not the bottleneck of it. We're not in the midst of it. And there's KPIs so they can measure if we are on target, we're not, and there's an evolution in every single thing that we do. But it's a journey, right? And we're still taking to the next level. Next step for us is to hire a COO so I can take more things out of our plate. So the goal is to fire ourselves for every single position that we have.
That's a really great way to put it.
Yes.
And what has been the biggest challenge, or have you faced a particular obstacle that maybe has been really frustrating that you had to overcome? Maybe not just as a female entrepreneur, but just as a business person in general, building up this community, building up your business as well. Has there been any one point where it was very difficult for you to get past and, had to overcome a lot of different things and challenges to take you to that next level?
Sure, absolutely. I'm very fortunate to have a partner that every single challenge that we face, we work through it. But we have specific tools, self awareness, and different tools that we use to work on our relationship, on the business growth in different areas. When we face a challenge that we're quote unquote stuck on it, we reach out to other mentors that we have and they walk us through it. When a challenge comes along, it sucks, to be quite honest, right? It could be somebody that stole from you. It can be somebody that's just a team that is not working or something that we disagree and we're very strong about that. Or we never disagree in terms of the value, our mission and vision, right? That we're really aligned to that. But how we get to that, we have different strategies. And many of those strategies, there's no right or wrong. It's like, what is that we're going to go right now? So we don't rely only on ourselves. We reach out to other resources that we have in order to grow. We don't know what we don't know. And we don't want to limit our growth based on where we're at. So many times, all the time, all the breakdowns, all the challenges, they're actually very, very important. They are very, very important because they're going to teach a lesson and you're going to gain experience. But when we look at them as challenges, as like, oh gosh, that was bad, I wish it didn't happen, then you're not getting the lesson in it. So everything that happened, good or bad, whatever, is just a word, right? It contributes to our growth as a whole.
Going back to the podcast as you were starting up and finding guests to interview on your podcast, what was the best way that you were able to find all the women that you've been able to bring onto the show and interview in that space, especially in the earlier years when maybe there might not have been as many back then as there is now?
We thought we are going to have a hard time, but we didn't. A lot of women that we knew behind the scenes were just under the radar, and we just contacted them and invited them to share their journey, whatever that journey is. And that was pretty straightforward. And at that time, we were doing everything, right? From booking to editing to, I don't even know what goes behind the scene anymore, but we fire ourselves from that. And now we just show up.
So one of the things that you had mentioned also is you guys are going to be starting up, you will be having an investor conference coming up here in June. And
Yes,
so is this the first in-person event that you guys have done since the pandemic started?
correct.
What has been the biggest challenge by setting up a conference as large as that, especially an in-person conference, all the back end
Mhm.
technical things that need to go on in setting up and creating that type of event?
But there's a lot of zeros involved, right? So there's a lot of people involved because anything that we do, we want to do with excellence. So there's a thought behind it. We're just not going to throw something out there. So all the speakers, Kim Kiyosaki is coming to be a keynote, and we have other four amazing keynote speakers, Kathy Fettke, we have Wendy Papasam and Evie Pomporis, and they were handpicked. And all the 20 plus women that are coming to talk about real estate are the best of the best in real estate. They have a lot of on their plate and they could have said no. But we have built a relationship with them throughout the years. And when I think about a subject, I think about this person. I can be somebody else. So we want that person to come. And we are very excited to put it together. It's a transformation event. It's not a traditional real estate conference where we cannot relate to the audience. Everybody that is coming, they're coming with new content. We're going to push the boundaries. One of the sessions that I'm most excited from Shannon Waller, she's from Strategic Coach from Dan Sullivan. And if you guys heard the book, Who Know How, The Gap in the Gain, that's them. So she's one of his mentors, and she's going to come to do an hour and 15 interactive training with the women there. So there's no such a thing as like, I'm just going to sit down in my chair and experience this. No, there's a lot of movement going around from the stage to what you're going to see in the bathroom to the food that you're going to eat. We thought about it all. So there's a lot of work behind the scene. And I invite you guys to come. It's going to be great.
Thank you so much. It sounds fantastic. It will be on my radar.
Awesome.
So, Andresa, I'm also curious, the network that you've built is women focused.
Mm.
Has there been any also men who are interested in this community as well?
All the time we have allies and they're very important. I always say that the women equality is not a women's problem, is everybody's problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So we have a lot of men that support us. They know either their spouse, their daughter, their neighbor, they have women around them that they can get, and they listen to us. They send us feedback. They listen to the podcast, send us feedback. They come to our meetups. We're not against men, right? That's not what we stand for. But we want to provide a platform for women and dedicate all our content to the needs, schedule, what goes inside a woman's mind. But that doesn't prevent men from also playing the arena and supporting.
So this conference is coming up shortly here. Is there anything else as well that you are super excited about in the near coming future?
Well, right now, the conference is my main focus in June because we want to make sure women are creating those connections that go beyond the event. We have a couple of projects behind the scene that we are working on, but we can't share it right now because still in the midst. And we just closed on 670 units. So we are taking a breath.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Andresa, how has real estate investing impacted your life?
Well, real estate is a tool that has given me the possibility of creating life on my own terms and have given me the time to do whatever I want with whomever I want, how often I want.
And what is the one thing you know now about real estate that you wish you knew when you first started?
I don't need to play solo. I can start playing in the game. The real estate is a team game. I don't need to be good at everything. And I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know all the steps for me to get started. My experience is not an excuse for me to do not do bigger projects. It's all about leverage. How can I leverage the people that I have around me and what I bring to the table and how I can fill out the gaps?
And then what is the one thing that sets the successful people apart in real estate investing?
I believe it's awareness. You're aware of your gaps and you're aware of your strengths. You're aware of how you feel. You own it. You move along. You are aware about when you're still in development. There's no such a thing as like a final product, right? There's like awareness that you are in this journey and the horizon is not meant to be reached. So I believe that human being development is the same.
Also, how I just thought of this one last question. Was there anything as you got into real estate and you started building up what you have come to today? Was there anything that you were completely surprised about that you did not expect getting into this space as you were starting in the very beginning and looking back from now?
My first project, right? I pulled a HELOC. I did a rehab and I pulled a HELOC out and the appraisal came lower than what I expected. I was like, what? This is like lower. And I requested a appraisal report and I dissected it. And I created another report and I said to the appraiser and to the lender, I would like you guys to take a look at this and reconsider because there were a ton of mistakes that happened. So this is not accurate. They did that and raised my cash out by HELOC to $25,000, which ended up being a total of $68,000 that I was able to get it and reinvest. From that point now, I thought this was what people did in the past. And I was surprised to realize that no, people just got the appraisal reports and they accept it. So I was very, very surprised. And since then, I about 300,000 and different other reports that I appealed and was able to increase the money.
Wow. That goes to show it doesn't hurt to ask.
Absolutely. Never.
Well, Andresa, I really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing about your experience, your journey, how you built up this community, this network for women, but not just exclusive of women. And I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I'm so grateful that you came onto the show and shared about yourself with me and my listeners as well. And so I really appreciate you coming on. And for our listeners out there who are also interested in getting in contact with you and learning a little bit more about your network and who you are, where's the best place that they can go?
They can find me on Instagram at the Real Estate Investor, HER, or on our website, therealestateinvestor.com.
Thank you so much, Andresa.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to our podcast today, brought to you by Bonavest Capital. We would really appreciate it if you can go to iTunes right now and leave a rating and written review. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. You can also connect with us on Facebook, How Did They Do It Real Estate. We'd love to hear your feedback and any topics that you're interested in for future episodes. Lastly, to learn more about us, you can go to bonavestcapital.com and fill out the Contact Us page so you can speak to us directly. Nothing on the show should be considered as specific personal advice. Please consult your legal, tax, and real estate professionals for individualized advice.